some technical problems. Is that true? Is that what's going on? I don't know. I'm curious. I'm actually certainly curious. No, we're alive right now. Oh my god. What happened? What is this 21st century technology doing to us? You know? I don't understand. I would like to, but for whatever reason, I just don't understand. I think I'm too stupid for it. That's probably why. That's probably why when I press streaming, it just nothing happens, and I stare at the screen like an idiot, and look at it, and it's just like, blinking my eyes like a deer, looking at the incoming traffic. It's about to get hit real hard, and it's just like, is this what my life is about these days? Is this is where it's going? I don't know. You tell me. um, yeah, it was the stream key. I blame you guys. It's your fault after all, because I haven't touched shit, dude. Or maybe it was Ash. Let's blame Ash these days. Ash is to blame. It's all his fault that I couldn't stream on the right time, and we got late about 2 minutes, dude. How many of our viewers are now super upset? Like, holy fuck. No, dude. It's already one. It's already 4 minutes past one, dude. Check your clock. Are you not like synced in completely? Like, dude, you should be on top of this shit, dude. Don't do this to me. uh, either way, I'm really hoping that people can actually hear us. I'm pretty sure they can, because otherwise they'll already yell like, "What? Why I cannot hear anything, guys? Just fix this now." Yeah. So we're back to the stream. I mean, enough of this bullshit and fun talk. Let's get real serious now, guys. Um, yeah. So we are back, and I'll be continuing on this beautiful painting. I want to have it done eventually, and the whole purpose is for you guys to see it from the ground up. So we've been doing that for last couple of weeks now, and we're just gonna continue doing it. So yeah, that's where this is going. As always, when you guys are in here, you can always ask questions, and you know, if there's something that you quite not understand, or you want to hear some insight about specific things, then just keep asking those questions, guys. Just just type in that chat box, and it's just magically gonna pop on our end, thanks to the internet and 21st century technology that is just completely mind-blowing. And eventually we'll read it and answer it. How simple is that? um the technology is amazing. I know. Anyways, so I'm just continuing on this one, and I was explaining more or less the idea behind what I do with those paintings. And generally speaking, is we sort of already laid out everything in 3D. We got the render out, and the next thing, we just started populating some texture. We did some little overpaint here and there, and yeah, maybe I am. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I haven't been smoking for like forever. So, but basically speaking, we are just continuing here. And my basic idea for this kind of painting, and this is basically, almost like one-on-one related to what I was doing during the Last of Us game development. So when you're watching this, obviously everything kind of happens in very slow motion, and you're seeing every step being taken in a very sort of like it takes a lot of time for me to make those steps. But that's because I'm talking with you guys, and I'm talking with John, and I'm also trying to be somewhat entertaining and not like a boring fuck. Oh, really? For whatever reason, they cannot hear you. Huh. That's is interesting. Let me check this out. I'm gonna open Skype. Um, that is weird. Hmm. I haven't done anything. Can you talk? I don't know. They cannot hear John. So let's try to fix that right away. I'll go into my settings and because we're talking through Skype, right? And when you're talking, oh, why is that so? Let me check something real quick. Oh, okay. I think I know what's up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, cool. I think they can hear you now as well. I'm
Okay,
convinced
let
they
me
can. Yeah.
test. 1, 2.
Yeah. They can hear you. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
they can hear
sure.
me. Yeah, we're
Um,
set.
yeah, I think. So here's what's up. So here's basically what happened. Um, Skype is a wonderful software that we use for discussion between me and John. And sometimes Skype just decides that when it updates to a new version or whatever, it just kind of says to me, "Well, Maciej, fuck your settings. I don't care. Fix it later. Realize it when you're actually on the live stream that we just fucked it up for you." Yeah, just the settings change. I was talking with a client yesterday on the Skype, and right at the moment where I was about to have a call, Skype decided that it's a perfect timing for an update, and it just basically quit Skype and like
Oh
it's
boy.
just gonna take a brief moment. And fuck, fuck
They
off.
said my volume's loud. My
Okay,
output.
let me change
If you
that
could
real
turn
quick. Should be fixed now. Should be a little.
tight,
It might be clipping
tight.
though. Might be clipping though.
Thank you guys. I'm testing right now.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on there, guys. I don't know. It might be my volume is not good enough.
Yeah, yours is okay. Mine's much louder, but I think it's yours that needs to be turned up.
um I think it's just those settings that because it worked perfectly last time and it's just it's gonna clip a little bit. We're gonna fix
Mm-hmm.
it for the next one. I promise that. So but for now, I think it's good. If you want, you can talk a little further away from the mic or something.
Yeah, I just pulled my mic away.
Yeah, you're
Should
good.
be better.
Yeah, yeah. Um, anyways, I'm working on that ground texture right now. We kind of did a little bit of that ground texture before last time. We we did a little painting, and now I'm just putting the texture. That's the usual way I would work. I would sort of put a texture in, and then mix it with painting. So it's not completely just it's not just completely a texture itself. I would look into like how the texture looks like. For instance, if it's blending well or not, and if the shape of the elements on the texture look good or not. I would just go in and start doing like little overpaints, making sure that sort of all of the elements work together nicely. Like there is this sort of ceiling part that collapsed here. I want to make sure it integrates well as well. So in that case, I just want to overpaint as much of it as I can. I never leave any textures untouched. I rarely do that unless it's like a small element of a tree that kind of works there already. But I still want to have a little bit of treatment on top of that, a little bit of overpaint because it just helps to get that illusion of consistency throughout the whole image. Like one thing I just hate doing is basically pasting some textures and then leaving them untreated, leaving some kind of seams all around there. It kind of sucks. I don't wanna have any of that in my painting. So I'm always doing a little bit of that overpaint, a little bit of that treatment on top of the texture. Um, so this is basically what I'm doing right now. Like I have the panel that came down because of this huge opening, the water leak and everything. It's basically what I'm trying to do is make sure that those panels are in the right size. I have like a little paper laying in here. I'm probably gonna be removing that or maybe adding a little bit of the sharpness to it. You know, there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration when you're looking at what your ground texture looks like, especially when you just paste it in from a photo. Because the photo itself, you know, you might actually find a perfect photo. You paste it in, do a little bit of overpaint, and boom, you're done, right? But sometimes it just doesn't work that way. Sometimes you just need to put a little extra effort to make it look like it's a consistent part of the image. So
Somebody said, "Are you gonna finish this painting or what?"
I don't know.
That was Abby Chan.
Should I finish this painting ever? I can go forever, guys. I'll just like slow down my pace even
Never
10
finish
times,
it.
make it like even 10 times slower than what it really is. and just be an asshole and just work it real slow. Yeah, so should we add any of those? No, I don't think so. I'm just like cycling through textures right now. So for instance, when I see my escalator, what I really like seeing here is that the dirt and everything and a little bit of that, what do you call it? Dust. See, my dictionary.
Dust.
Dust. Oops. So I wanna have that here as well. And I use it in a way that I look at the texture, like I might only paste it in a way that, let's say it fits in here slightly, and then from there I'll just paint it over and maybe, you know, do a little bit of editing like this. I never like settle for the actual final sort of texture. There's always some big editing going on, and it's just like it's sort of like giving myself a little bit of that backdrop that I can work with. It's not really just I like this texture, so let's just basically use it. It's more of it's a good sort of starting point, so I don't have a blank canvas. And the truth is, if I would want to have my escalator look amazing with just painting, that would be kind of a hard thing to do. Like it would just take much more time. And as much as I like the idea of us having an infinite amount of time for this painting because we're basically streaming it and I can go step by step, that's all cool and dandy. But the problem is you guys would just like next 2 streams, maybe 3 streams from now, you'd be like, well, fuck this, I don't want to watch that crap. It's just so boring. Like I don't want to do that.
He said, "I came here for cyberpunk chicks with big guns. Any chance of that?"
Dude, maybe. I'm pretty sure at some point. I mean, what I'm trying to do with this stream is, you know, for once, it's basically giving you sort of like an insight of what you can expect by signing up for my courses with Learn Squared. But what I also want to do is, it's connected to what I'm teaching, and also I want to make sure I'm running it almost like per project. So basically, once I'm finished with this painting, once it's already done and ready to go, and we all agree like it looks decent enough for us to shelve it, then from there I would be saying, all right, let's pick up a next project and let's work on something together. I'm also, you know, considering and I sort of like started doing that a little bit, but I want to do a little more of that, is also devote a little bit of time to talk about things that are really interesting, maybe some software that came out and is worth looking at, much like we did on one of the streams where I was talking about F-Storm, that kind of jazz. I think it's going to be a mix of a lot of things, and I have my futuristic character design class, which is basically what you're asking if I would be doing something similar, and I'll definitely will. So it's just like
Tight.
I want to have this done first. I don't want to leave it hanging in there because it's already been long enough, and you just have to finish. You just have to finish work, man. Just have to
Next
get it done.
serious question here. It says, how can I maintain the values in the 3D when I'm dropping some photos in there? Do you always trust the internal knowledge, eyeballing what to fix best, or do you double check with any tool? Being the simple like transforming the whole image to black and white. Does that make
Um,
sense?
well, I mean, adding like
So really just
black and white.
maintaining the values there.
Yeah, like adding sort of like hue saturation layer is definitely going to give you a better idea if the values are intact or not. At this point, almost entirely eyeballing, because I've been doing this for long enough to have a good understanding of what value is gonna work and where it's gonna make sense. Um, I think I lost you, John. I don't know.
Yeah, I muted myself.
Good,
For
good.
some reason, it picks up my sound on the computer. I'm trying to test some videos out real quick, so I'm just gonna.
Gotcha. No, yeah, you keep yourself muted, man. That's a good idea.
Yeah, will do.
um, but yeah, having some kind of adjustment layer that basically makes, like, whether it's a hue saturation or anything else, that basically turns the saturation down to zero. It will give you. Whoa! It will give you a. Let's do this here, actually. Let's go and add a hue saturation, and let's turn down the saturation to zero and put it like this. So now you can examine. All right, so this is where we at, and this is how it's looking. And you can see, okay, in which areas you need to add or remove value, basically. So for me, for instance, when I look at this element right here, it's already telling me it's a little bit too bright, probably. I would probably want to have it, a little darker. So this is what I would do. I would just go into that specific layer and start changing the value, like making it down a little bit like this, maybe. I like that it's picking up a little bit of that light because it's giving you a little more attention. But my only worry here is it's already creating a lot of contrast too, which means that at some point, this area right here might become so contrasty that this is going to be the first thing you're looking at, much like this area right here. And this is intentional. I want you to look into that area because this is a very important piece of the painting, the opening. It's important because not only it's important from very very from one angle that is very important when you do environment paintings for games, is what kind of action piece you're trying to create and present. So sometimes your composition rules that you're creating, the composition that you're trying to make for a painting, will almost be ruled in most cases, or almost entirely, by the fact of what you're trying to present as a concept piece for a game. And what kind of gameplay is happening in that area. So for instance, in this area, the idea was that, this huge opening that we have here, I think we discussed it last time. The idea would be, all right, so basically speaking, some kind of monster or maybe people or whatever would be jumping in here, and that would be sort of like an entryway that would basically make this whole thing a combat area, right? So you want to have that exposed. You want to see that whenever a player comes into this area, this is the first thing he's going to look at. But from artistic point of view and artistic composition, I want to have a balance, right? Because this is basically when you have such a contrasty element, right, like this, what's going to happen? Your eyes going here, which makes the whole painting unbalanced. So there's two ways of creating balance. So that's why this thing here, this element, this photo element that I started adding for the escalator is already telling me that this is a little bit too bright because it's creating another sort of like an anchor point. And that could work possibly if I would make something in this area right here as well. So if I would make this whole area right here a little brighter, add some kind of layer that makes up for more contrast, that could totally work as a balancing element for the painting, which basically would balance the composition. And the composition rule we would use here would be basically balanced composition, you know? So you basically add elements to the painting that that are basically balancing the attention of where you're looking at. You're not having just one specific, very pinpointed attention point. You have more elements that grab your attention. Like, for instance, what I did here is I just added the overlay layer, and what I could do to sort of make it even more interesting would be, you know, this kind of gives me an opportunity to start playing with shadow, for instance. So I would come in and say, all right, I want to have like a shadow that hits this, so it's already creating like a little extra contrast. So you're just gonna paint in that shadow right here. Something like that. And obviously the shadow is not gonna be so sharp. I would make it less sharp like this. Obviously this part of a column is not gonna catch that light because it's not facing it. So I need to basically erase the light from this area, and it's almost like it's casting shadow here as well. So you're gonna have a little light coming in. And you know, this is a good part. Like, you can have that hue saturation layer on top of your image because it just gives you a good information on what the values are doing here. But bear in mind that it's really important to look into the color image at the end of the day, because hues are creating contrast as well. For instance, I have green color right here and a lot of red right here. This is sort of like a very typical contrasting element. So what's basically happening, if you have two opposing colors close to one another, you're gonna create artificial lines, and basically it almost creates a dividing line across the image, which in a way is imposing sort of like this almost a symmetrical composition rule into it as well. You know what I mean? Similar to the escalator area right here. The reason you're paying attention to this red element is not only because it's a lot of saturation kicking in, you also have a saturation from the green color, which is from contrasting hues, and that's creating a lot of contrast as well. So this element pops quite much because, first of all, you have a value contrast, so black and sort of like a grayscale right here, and a pretty bright color right here. Then you have a hue contrast and also saturation contrast, because this is much more saturated than the parts of the escalator. So, but you know, basically, when I'm looking at my painting, I'm looking at those areas and the composition, and trying to figure out how I can balance the composition in a way that it helps the image. and always paying attention to what the purpose of the image really is. You know, it has to be aimed towards specific goal. My goal here is it is a painting that will be used by environment artists and probably, you know, definitely game designers and level designers and whatnot. And when they look at it, they are not only dressing the area that they're going to build, like they are not only getting an information how this area is going to look like, but they will pay attention to scale of elements and what can be done and what has to be in this painting and what can be basically removed. So just to give you a little bit of insight, I'm being carried away by this one question, but it's just so broad and it's opening so many doors here, and I think it's worth a while to explain a few of those things. When you're working in video games, what happens is you are working with a lot of people that gonna need your help to sort of portray what is the game going to look like. But you're also working within a set of constraints, which means you're going to have a level designer or a game designer. In each game studio, they are called differently. You can call them designers, whatever. Basically, people that are making the gameplay happen. That they're building the game, they're building the action pieces, they're building elements where you traverse or where you fight, and you know they are basically responsible for everything that is just going on the screen in terms of how it feels to play and what is happening and where the story is going in a pure gameplay element that you as a gamer control. So game designers will build sort of like a block mesh idea of what the level is going to look like. So for instance, this is probably what you're going to get from a game designer, right? Sort of, you know, it has a little bit of overpaint going on here, but you're going to get like a very simplistic version of what this whole structure is going to look like. What are the most important parts? All right, we need that escalator, we need that booth, and we need that opening. They have to be in this specific areas. They will probably be represented in boxes or, you know, openings. And that's pretty much it. The one rule that you're going to get, and the reason why you have to really stick to it, is the height of those elements, right? So the height of this escalator, the height of this booth right here, how tall it is. How tall is this column? How tall is this counter right here? Those elements have to be fixed. And the reason is very simple. Game designers, they don't, in most cases, they don't think about what is exactly in there. So this is possibly a booth. It could be something else. You could figure out this to be a totally different element, as long as it's keeping the construction, as long as it has those pillars and the sort of like these boxes that you can hide behind, and the openings that you can possibly use as a, you know, like you can hide here, pop up and start shooting this direction, right? So you're going to have your little guy with a gun standing here and shooting, but eventually you can get him to, you know, duck. Whoa. This is working so slow. I'm surprised. For whatever reason, Photoshop just slowed down on me. Damn you, Photoshop. Or you're going to have a guy who is just basically ducking right here, right? Perfect drawing. But the height is important. They call it, from what I remember, it's called a half cover and full cover. And half cover means you're going to duck and hide behind it. Full cover means you can stand and still hide behind it. And that's basically for like a combat inside of the game, right? So when you play and the designer says, okay, this escalator is a half cover, then you have to respect the scale of it. Now, how are you going to dress it and wear it down and you know, what kind of details and elements is going to be there, that's up to you, as long as you're keeping the structure, right? Another angle would be a game designer would say, I want to see this element right here. Like there's enough clearance that you can see the end of the hall so you know where to run away. But also I want to make sure that, you know, this opening is large enough for monsters or whatever the fuck we're going to add here to jump in, and some of them gonna fall down into the escalator because they're stupid, but some of them gonna jump down on the floor and whatnot, and I'll be ready to attack you. But you're still gonna have that booth that you can hide behind, so you have like an element of a cover, and you can start playing around, right? That would be sort of like a basic idea, what this would be like when you play it. So everything we're doing on top is dressing on how this area is gonna look like, and that's pretty much it. You're only allowed to do that, and if you want to do any structural changes, you have to talk with the designer. You just cannot make an arbitrary call and say, oh, I want to add a tank right here, or a collapsed ceiling that is basically going to block the whole view, because your designer is going to say no, it has to be open. You have to see what is in the back, because otherwise, as a player, like if you're playing the game and you're not seeing this opening, you might not know that this is the only route of escape, and then as a player you're going to be frustrated, right? So there's always a logic behind the block mesh. Is whether it's a block mesh or a setup, or however you're going to call it. Like this very crude representation of what the environment is and what you're supposed to paint on it. There's always going to be an explanation what exactly is happening there, and what are your constraints. So when you're painting your environment, when you're doing all the work, and basically doing your job, environment painting, you are working within those constraints. The second element that usually applies to environment art, environment concept art, is lighting. And lighting is very important because it also brings the elements of a focus. Let's say you are approaching this area, and the designer who's designing the level has this idea in mind that you want to pay attention to this opening, right? So it's clear information for you that this opening is going to be really important, and you need to see what's going on there. Like, you just need to have a player to look at it right from the get-go. So one thing, so for instance, I sort of like picked up my angle. This is the composition I'm going to work with. It's giving a lot of information of how these two elements that are really important for gameplay look like. It's going to be good information for 3D artists, how to build it, what kind of wear and tear is going to be there, how the texture is going to look like, and for lighting artists, what the lighting is going to be like in my mind, right? Bear in mind, it's always a group call, or in many cases, it's actually a group call where you have a meeting and you discuss those things. But one thing that you might consider as a good idea, and it might help you with the composition, because very often, unless you have a chance to pick and choose what kind of angle you're gonna painting, you're gonna get a screenshot, and you just have to work on top of a screenshot, and the composition might be fucking horrible, because the game designer is usually not an artist, and some game designers know composition, some don't need to know composition because this is not what they're doing for a living. So sometimes you need to fix composition. So in this case, for instance, if this area is so important that it's basically making my composition unbalanced, right? And if I add this lighting right here, and the game designer comes in and says, wait, like, I don't want to have a lighting from here because it's when you look back, it's gonna give a player an idea that that's a route of escape too, but we want the player to go the other direction. So now it's creating a confusing moment and confusing part of the element. Like, this is misleading for a player. So you might say, like, get rid of that lighting. So now the composition is a little bit of unbalanced, right, for you. So what am I supposed to do? So one thing you could do is maybe, bring up the lighting on this pillar a little bit, or maybe change the composition slightly so you're exposing a little more of that ceiling, so you're giving more of an idea what the ceiling's gonna look like. You're changing the composition a little bit by expanding the picture, and maybe closing this here, so all of a sudden it becomes like an enclosed element, and it's much easier to balance the composition then, right? So it's giving yourself more options by recropping and changing some parts of the composition to to basically make it more pleasant as a painting, but also informative and with the right structure as an environment concept art. Because one thing that is important to know, concept art is not an illustration. It can be an illustration, but doesn't have to be an illustration. Concept art can look horrible and be a great concept art because it's basically giving the right idea to the right people so they can take it and build something amazing out of it. It doesn't have to look like Craig Mullin's painting to be a concept art, as long as it's conveying the information. Obviously, for our sake as artists, we want the shit to look awesome, right? so, so we're not gonna settle for can you create 20 sketches in a day? I don't care how they look like. No, fuck off. I gotta create one, and it's gonna look awesome because I want it so. Anyways, I'm gonna leave it here like this. I actually like this lighting that it's creeping in here. It's cool because we can then add we can make a shadow here. Like there's a little monster coming in, like, or a human being that is standing there. It's giving you an idea that something's out there. I'm gonna add it later though. Cool. Dude, that was the longest answer I've ever gave.
And that's how you check your values.
I check my values, and should I check my privilege too?
Next question says, I'm currently using Rhino and V-Ray. Rhino is great for surfaces, but when it comes to meshes, it is difficult to work with. I want to learn Modo and 3ds Max. Which one has an easier learning curve?
Well, obviously Modo is way easier to learn. The problem with Max, I like Max better than Modo almost any day. The only problem that I have with Max is the fucking UI. It's the fucking UI, dude. It's so outdated. One tool gonna be in 20 different areas is just frustrating sometimes because you want to like focus and do something real quick, and then like, wait, where was this tool? It was in like 20 different areas that I now need to find. It's just really frustrating at times. Modo is a much fresher software, and the UI is much better. It almost feels a little bit like Photoshop because you're working with layers. So that's like a positive if you're just starting and you like working with layers, but it also can be a curse because I personally hate working with layers in 3D. What Modo has, like if say you have like 6 meshes, 6 different elements, if they're on one layer, they're considered one mesh, and this is something that I hate. I don't like that, especially when I'm building things in 3D. In 3D, I want to have every single mesh to be a different, to be separate from one another. I don't want to have them all to be one mesh. You know, if I accidentally work on one layer in Modo, that's a really destructive way of working because then you have to go in and separate them into different layers, and it's really, really, really annoying in the long term unless you're paying real attention to it. Whereas in Max, you don't have to do that. Max also has this modifier stack, which works really great. It's a very non-destructive way of working. So if you're working smart within Max, you can make really complex meshes, really big complex meshes, and by just clicking off options, get them back to where you started without pressing Control Z and going back in history and basically removing every steps that you've done before. No, it's just like you click on and off. Like you want to bend an object, that's it's almost like an adjustment layer on top of Photoshop image. So if I'm adding that hue saturation image right here, I can click it on and off without going back in the history and removing things that I've done correctly, just to fix that one thing that I fucked up in along the way, right? On the other hand, obviously Modo has a cleaner UI. It's much easier to learn. There's much more in a package that you get. I love the modifiers they have for I don't remember how they are called, but it's basically You can use like volumes and modifiers to twist, scale, and move and rotate elements based on the volume that you see on the screen. So it could be like you're only going to twist the element within that box that you see on the screen that you created, right? I can't remember the exact name of that function, but it's really robust system for making amazing mesh changes. It's almost like FDD box in Max, but in a more robust and cool way. I wish Max had that. It would be so much better for any kind of modifications, whether you want to move something with the fall off. You can basically move, bend, and do a lot of shit with fall offs. You can have a linear fall off. You can have radius fall off. You can use an image as a fall off. You can make like a black and white image, almost like a height map, and use it as a fall off for scaling, for moving, rotating. It's amazing. It just works really well. I just wish it was in Max because the basic functions of Max and everything that I need for proper work, it's already there, and it's missing from Modo. So that's basically my major complaint there. But
So which one has?
use Modo if you want to learn 3D quickly, because it's much easier to learn on Modo, for sure.
Here it is. Next one says, are you going to use Oculus Rift for 3D modeling or any VR in the future?
When it becomes as an option that makes sense, for sure, I want to try it. Right now, there is no modeling in VR. I don't believe so.
I think there's something. I haven't really looked into it yet.
I need to look into it. I have HTC Vive at home. It's just lying there because I don't use it as much. Tilt brush is cool it's a gimmick. It's cool, but I'm working so much. I don't have time to explore gimmicks just for now.
Next question says, the lessons are around, for your courses, basically, the lessons are around 10 hours each. How comprehensive of the fundamentals are there? Is a bulk of it through self-study in terms of the lessons?
I guess the best example would be environment painting class, right? Basically, what I do there is I go through a basics of what do you need to know in order to do a successful, or like to learn the basics of environment painting. So I work through foundation, perspective, color, and whatnot. I go with enough details so that you understand the logic behind it, and it obviously requires practice. So if you're expecting, for instance, that you're just gonna take a class and that alone will make you an amazing artist, that's a wrong expectation to have. If you're expecting that you're gonna get enough knowledge to start with, and then from there, if you want to push it even further, do your own research. That's the right expectation to have. This class is basically built for anyone. So you don't have to be professional to start it. You can be absolute noob. Matter of fact, Jingna, who was my apprentice for the class, she'd never been painting before, and at the end of the class, she was able to produce really cool work. So that was kind of cool. But it's really, it all comes down to the effort you're gonna put in. I'm trying to get all the information you need to have in order to complete the class and get the basic understanding what you have to do, and when you're painting, when you're doing environment art, what are the caveats of working in the games industry, and and giving you a little bit of especially with that one, giving you a little bit of an intro to 3D, because 3D is, I believe, something that is really important, and it's just going to become more and more important as we go. I already use 3D quite heavily in my work, so that's the reason I'm giving an introduction to it. However, you don't have to know 3D just yet, especially in games. It's not a mandatory thing just yet, but it's surely moving in that direction. And again,
Health question.
you need to have a foundation. If you don't have any foundation and you only working in 3D, that's fine. You're gonna be great 3D artist. But if you want to be good at concept art and illustration, you need to know foundation. It's just gonna help you. Um, it, it's almost like a prerequisite of what are you gonna do with 3D if you want to be more than just a 3D artist.
Next question says, it's a health question. Basically, sitting too much isn't healthy. Do you use some kind of sitting pillows to avoid ulcers?
I have a standing desk, and right now I'm sitting, but after the stream, I'm gonna be standing. I basically have a desk. I invested a lot of money into this, and it's the best investment I ever had. I would say invest into really fucking good chair if you plan to sit, or make a standing desk, and you can make the one. You can invest money and have a one that is basically remote controlled, which is basically will allow you to sit and stand, or you can, like you guys did, John, have a cinder blocks under
Yeah,
just a regular IKEA desk and make it a standing desk, and maybe buy like a high stool, like a high chair, so you can sit
that's
once
the
in a
cheap
while.
way.
Yeah, that's the cheap way, and it works.
$6.
Standing desk is probably the best thing that can happen for your health, because you are basically burning calories when you're doing standing, and you're not straining your back so much. Sitting is the worst. Sitting is killing you. So
Mm. The next
yeah,
question
yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Can you talk about that new selection tool for matte painters? You mentioned it in our cafe and didn't go into detail yet. Shame,
Oh,
shame.
here we go.
Shame, shame.
Here we go. All right, let's do this. I'm gonna try to find I don't know. Let me Google like a photo with like leaves or some shit. I want to have like a higher res photo for some kind of tree. It's gonna be a good one. Let's see. I'm still searching, guys. I'm still searching. All right, maybe let's use this one. I hope it's gonna work the way I think it's gonna work. No, this is a shitty photo. Hold on. I'm doing a wrong search, I think. I'm searching for trees and I'm getting only bullshit photos. What the fuck? Alright, this is gonna be good, I think. For whatever reason, a lot of photographers like to completely oversaturate their photo to a point where it's just like it's fucking up with your brain. I don't know why, but all right. So we have this photo, and the new selection tool in the new Photoshop is very simple. So let's say I go in and do a color range, and I select the sky, right? And I basically go in and do something like this. So I have my selection. Now I right click and make a selected mask. And then in here I have new properties for this whole thing. Let's invert it. And here in the view mode, you can change view modes. You can make like an overlay. Basically, it's just gonna turn the background red. You can make a black and white thing like this, and different ideas are on black. You can change the opacity to different percentage. And then you can go into like change contrast. So basically, you're increasing contrast of your selection so that it just takes away from the background. You can make like a smart radius, which will basically start to analyze your image And changing the radius. I want to do a little bit of a shift edge here. I don't think the smart radius worked that well in here, but let's see if I go in and oops, I deselected everything, man. Let's go again and do this again. Basically, you have a lot of those different options right here, and they just allow you. So, for instance, smart radius will remove the inner selection. So I don't want to do that. I want to shift edge, for instance. I want to decontaminate colors, which means basically what's going to happen when you decontaminate colors, your edges are not going to have the background color. They're going to pick the overall color from your tree, for instance. And you can see if I expand, you can see I expanded this area right here would certainly be blue, but it's basically turning it into more of a greenish color because I'm decontaminating it. I want to increase the contrast. So there's a lot of options you can do. Then you can select, okay, the output is going to be new layer with a layer mask, new document, document with layer mask, or just new layer. So you can basically create a lot of options. And when I press OK, all of a sudden I have, this, and it's done. And obviously it's not super clean. I would probably go in and do a little more work. You can get that mask and maybe create more contrast on that mask too. But if you go in and make the background black, you can see you don't have that white outline that you would normally have if you would do it the regular way as before, when you would just select masks and do that kind of bullshit, Here is just kind of giving you a very clean edge. And if I would want to get rid of those white points right here, I would go in and I would do this whole thing again, I guess. I would just go in selective color or color range like this, and go into my select and mask, inverted, and yeah, you see, I would have to deselect some of the areas and still do a little bit of that labor work, but it's already the fact that it's giving me the outline super clean. That's already a big change. It was a bitch to clean it up manually.
Is this option only in Photoshop CC?
Yeah, that's the newest update. They added a month ago or so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I would basically go in, and I don't want this areas to be affected, right? Like here. So I would go in and deselect that, and then go in and do mask and select, invert. You can do smart radius. It's not gonna work that well, I think, or maybe actually it will. Yeah, so you can change the actual radius right here. And increase the contrast of it. It just gives you a lot of options that you didn't have before. It's not updating now well, I think. Or maybe I'm just doing too many changes at once before it updates. Anyways, fuck it. You get the gist of it, so.
Nice. Yeah, he said thanks. He said, you monster, Maciej. You monster.
I was just because I didn't have any idea that they added it. And I was just yeah, I've never paid attention. I almost never pay attention to updates that they do to Photoshop. And I think once, for whatever reason, it was in my YouTube channel, a recommendation to look into. And I was I was bored, let's watch this bullshit. And they made this, they go a greatest photo, a super cool photo of a dancer, a girl dancer with hair being blown away and a black background, and they clean it up perfectly, and then they shown like, oh, how you can add graphics to it, and the graphics were the most horrible, atrocious thing you've ever seen. I'm
Uh,
like, you should have stopped. You should have stopped there. Like once you clean it up, just stop the video there, because what you added there just basically ruined it. But anyways.
Next question for you says, I lost it. Where did it go? Where does illustration fit into the pipeline for film and games?
Um, well, it's basically the beginning of the project in most cases, and later on, it's so one thing you need to know. I think that's going to be an important message. Is concept art is not always about painting beautiful images. It's actually rarely about doing that. You get to do the paintings like I'm doing in the very early stages of development. Eventually, when you get to um, when you're actually working towards the end of the project, you're just gonna do sort of like a horrible representation of. Um, you're gonna get a screenshot from the game that looks like shit, and you're gonna get like 20 of them in a day, or or in a week, and all you have to do is do quick overpaints, like really quick ones, like within an hour you're overpainting something, change that, do this, change that, do this, basically that, and they look so horrible. And it's almost like you're giving iterations. So you get a shitty screenshot, you're painting over for an hour, sending it back, they do the changes, they send it back the screenshot, it looks like shit still, so you're still doing some overpaints for an hour, and you're doing like, you have to look at the whole game. It's not just this one area. In most areas, especially when the game is alpha, gonna look like shit. You maybe want to adjust textures and shit like that, or maybe lighting looks crappy. So you're gonna be doing those overpaints really quick. They look like absolute garbage, but it doesn't really matter, because the whole process is that you're improving it gradually, working together with the team. So you're giving them feedback. Okay, this is what has to happen with the lighting. This is what has to happen with textures. Your textures are too noisy. Remove that texture from here. That kind of like, it's almost like playing sort of like the art direction on top of it. And you do it completely together with the team. That's what we did, at least for The Last of Us. Some textures wouldn't match. Like there would be one texture on the wall was so noisy and contrasty that it was just basically ruining the balance of the whole scene. So you would go in and overpaint that and say like, we need to change that texture and maybe increase the contrast of the lighting, maybe change the values a little bit, maybe change a little bit of the hue of what the light source is, that kind of stuff. And you would have to do a lot of that. I would say 70-80% of work in video games is basically that. Just fix shit as a concept artist. So, but again, I'm giving you experiences. This is really important to understand. I'm giving you my experience from my perspective of working for Naughty Dog and working for Crytek. I don't know how it is at other game companies. I haven't been working in the studio with those companies enough to tell you. So every company is different, but
So it's 2 o'clock. There's
we're gonna be
questions.
wrapping up in a moment. Let's get one more question and maybe look at some current events if you have any.
I didn't collect any.
You motherfucker.
but let's spend the time to answer these last 3 questions.
All right.
This one says, do you think just creating images alone will eventually lead to more original ideas, or would you say originality comes from different things, like watching movies / documentaries?
If anything that can stimulate your brain for creativity, whether it's a movie, taking a hike and looking at nature, reading newspaper, anything, just anything you can imagine that basically is cool and fun and inspiring for you specifically, because everyone is different, right? Any of those things will be helping you to benefit in terms of like becoming a better artist. There is no one formula that works for everyone. Everyone is different. Like everyone will have their own inspiring element that basically brings the best out of them. For me, it's like a lot of playing with a lot of ideas and trying new software and trying new ideas and seeing how they work. Um, Going for a hike, going for a run, going to jiu-jitsu and training. A lot of things work for me that they're not necessarily going to work for you. I would say, practice definitely will make it easier. When you practice, it's going to be better for yourself, obviously. But it's not only just practice. I would usually say that there are more things that are related to it, not just practice. It's right. Maybe a film is a good thing. Like going to see like a really shitty film, like I don't know, the ones that I've never decided to never watch, like the Batman and the Superman versus Superman or whatever, or Prometheus, like like a real garbage. Like it's such a garbage that like you're puking inside of your mouth. Apart from the looking good, but just everything else about it is shitty.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, Prometheus looked beautiful, but it was a garbage movie. Um, but and then seeing something like is really fucking good, like a really good movie, like really well made with a good story, which is hard to tell. Like if there was any good movies these days, I would argue Ex Machina was one of them, and that's about it.
You said it was a good movie. You liked it?
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
it
It
was
was a
great.
very it was very good. Stranger Things are good. It's not a movie, but I liked that show a lot. So
Next question says, why do you paint in Windows? Does it help the workflow?
oh, like you mean instead of full screen? I'm right now. I'm just talking and not paying attention, whether it's windowed or not. Um, Uh, I like to have a good overview of an image, whether it's like small or large. When I'm having other files open, I like to see them time to time. If I really want to go into detail, I will zoom in and go into full screen mode. You know, um, it's just I guess it's just like a preference and more of what I'm really used to doing.
And the last question says, what is a good range of Photoshop document resolution setting to start with?
I never work under 4K, like ever, even if it's a simple sketch. For a simple reason, if it's a simple sketch, and I want to develop it, and I really like some of the brush strokes I did that look like, oh, this looks really cool. I want to kind of keep it there because it looks painterly and shit. When you're working on like 2000 resolution, when you scale it up to 4K, it's gonna look like garbage. So I usually try to work on the higher resolution. Um, that's one of the reasons I work on the really high resolutions. My computer can handle a shit ton of resolution, so I really don't pay attention to resolution anymore because I got enough of RAM and CPU power to basically not give a fuck. Unless it's like over 10, 20,000 pixels, then it's becoming maybe an issue, but 20,000 pixels is something I rarely work with. Although I did some paintings or concepts for film that were 20,000 pixels wide. However, yeah, it's I would say never go under 4K, especially these days. I mean, 4K, a lot of screens are 4K, and when you have a 4K image, you can blow it up to full screen and look at it in full screen. So why not? Like if that's what's the possibility, then we should give that possibility to whoever's gonna view it. So
Cool.
cool.
That's all the questions.
All right, guys. I did a little bit of progress in this painting. We're gonna keep going in the next one. We moved our streams to Thursday midday for several reasons. We wanna. I know for some it's gonna be like, "Fuck, I'm working. What the fuck, Maciej? You piece of shit, you asshole." I know that, but on the other hand, we want to give a little bit of chance to our European viewership to see it. And also Friday night, I don't think it's just like colliding with you want to go to party or hang out with friends, and then should I go and hang out with friends, and should I come in and hang out with this awesome artist on Twitch? So I figured, you know what, it's easier for you guys. We'll see. For now, we're gonna run it at these times. I want to have it scheduled so you always know, so you can always expect that this time during the day, every Thursday, we're gonna have a Twitch stream. We're basically making it almost like a TV schedule where you're certain that at specific time of day, specific time of week, you're gonna see someone streaming. And we're aiming towards that, and this is the first step. And if you happen to miss it, there's two options. You can either subscribe, so you're gonna have an instant access to all the videos that we're basically streaming. And if you don't want to do that, and you're just like, fuck it, like $5 is too much, fuck you guys, I'm not gonna give you money, that's fine too. We're happy to hear that too. Just then you're just gonna have to wait a little bit. It's gonna be on YouTube in the later date, so those streams always gonna be free, and there's always gonna be available for free. It's just like now you have two options to choose from, so that's where our heads are at right now.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So next stream is with Ash, I believe, next week. No, wait. We're actually having a stream with Alex next week, right? On Monday?
Is it? Let me check.
Fucking
I'm
next
all
week.
over the place with this schedule
next
now.
week, I'm going to be almost all the time streaming. What the fuck? I have like
Yeah, I know.
four streams and 2 Art Cafe episodes or something like that. I don't even remember.
It's exciting though.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. It's just I'm
Yeah.
probably gonna
So
lose my mind.
Alex is gonna be Alex Figini will be here on the 8th at 7 p.m. So
Shit. All right, so we're gonna
you
have
guys wanna-
Alex
Yep.
on Monday, and then we're gonna have Ash, and then we're gonna have me, and then we're gonna have me and Jama on Friday. So pay attention to Facebook. It's gonna be posted on this page as well. So when you're gonna, John, I think that we're gonna have it by the end of today, right? The actual schedule, or is it already there?
For Alex?
No, just like for the next week in the actual schedule here on Twitch stream.
Yeah, we'll have it soon.
Yeah, so we're gonna post it soon. So when you come back after a weekend, you're gonna have a full schedule of what's happening next week, apart from our regular Wednesday and Thursday schedule, which is weekly. So, awesome. Thanks, guys, for coming. Thanks for watching, tuning in, asking questions, and listening to my silly voice, and enduring through all the bullshit. It's fun. I like sharing everything that I can share, everything that I've learned over time, and let's keep it going. I'll hope to see you guys next week.
Cool.
Cheers.
I'll see you later. Peace out.
Bye.